Hey, it's IB Crazy with another antenna tutorial. If you're into helium mining, you know how important having a good antenna is. And in this tutorial, I'm going to teach you how to build an 8 dBi patch antenna. This one right here is just made out of cheap parts I could find at my local hardware store. All you need is a sheet of galvanized steel, a couple of wooden or foam blocks 1/2 inch thick for spacers between the plates, and a cheap eBay RG316 jumper with an SMA fitting. So with that, let's go build the antenna. The first thing you're going to need to do is measure out and cut your panel. Now for this frequency, your length of the panel would be 5.75 inches and your width is 6.25 inches. So use a Sharpie or other device and go ahead and mark the corners. Notice that I'm marking the corners both ways to be sure I've got a perfectly square panel. Of course, you could always use a straight edge or a square or something like that. I just prefer this method because it's easier. Then take a straight edge and go ahead and make your lines. Once you do that, you'll go ahead and cut this out. To cut this, I'm using a simple pair of tin snips. They cut galvanized steel reasonably well. Now, you don't have to be exactly perfect, but you want to get pretty close. Within a 1/16 of an inch will yield perfect results. Check the panel just to make sure your dimensions were right, and now we'll go ahead and cut the back plate. My back plate is simply 9.5 inches square. You can go as small as 8 inches, but this panel's already 9.5 inches wide, so it makes it easy to do. The next thing you'll need to do is mark your active element, that is the small plate, in the middle of the long side. So measure from one side 3 1/8 inch, and then you want to measure up from the bottom 1/2 inch and make a mark. Now you want to drill this out with a small drill bit. I used a 1/8 inch, but anything that you're going to be able to fit a small wire through will be fine. Now you can go ahead and make your spacer blocks. I'm making mine out of a 1/2 inch piece of wood, but you can use anything really. Foam, wood, or any other insulator such as plastic works. You want to keep these relatively small. Now take your panel and put it over top of your back plate approximately centered. Perfection is optional here. Mark the hole you just drilled as well as each corner. This will allow you to line up your blocks for the patch antenna. Now we're going to go ahead and strip off our coaxial cable end. Strip off approximately an inch worth of the outer jacket. Try not to cut through the shield when doing this. All you want to do is the outer jacket. You can see I'm doing this in multiple steps. Now, once you've got that stripped, go ahead and get your soldering iron warmed up, and you're going to tin, that is, add solder to the shield of the coaxial cable. When tinning the cable, you don't want to add a whole lot of solder. What you're really trying to do is just make the cable stiff so it's easier to strip. Now I'm using my 1/2 inch block just to make sure that I strip the right amount out, as this is what's going to curve up from the back plate. Once you verify everything is correct, strip the end off the center conductor so that it can be soldered to the panel. Now you're going to go ahead and solder this cable to the back plate. It takes quite a bit of heat to get the back plate to solder, so don't get too frustrated. It doesn't happen immediately. When bonding your cable, you want to be sure that where your shield ends is right where you made the mark with the hole of the top plate so that these line up. Now you're going to go ahead and glue your 1/2 inch blocks in place. I moved these just a little bit from the edge because the edge of the patch antenna is actually where it's resonant. So as you can see, I'm between a 1/2 and a 1/4 inch from the edge. I find that this is ideal. Go ahead and add glue to the top and the bottom, and then pull your coaxial cable upward so that it'll go through the hole in the top panel. Once you've got it all lined up and pressed down tight, go ahead and solder that in place. Again, this is going to take a lot of heat. However, RG316 uses Teflon, so it could take quite a bit of heat. Don't worry too much about overdoing it here. All right, so now it's time to test the performance. So I've got my vector network analyzer here set up. Marker, let's put this at 915. And see where we are. So at 9 and 15 megahertz, we're at 1.46 to 1.47. That's pretty doggone good. And then if I look for the minimum, Center frequency is 908, just 7 megahertz off of center. So if I wanted to bring this down to 915, I should have made my wooden blocks just a little bit smaller. But in any case, this is going to work just fine. And I'm going to go hook it to my radio. Until next time.